And so my dad had learned how to be a distiller from my grandpa, and so he was out of a job for 4 whole years. He couldn't get any work anywhere, and we lived with my grandma and my grandpa. And it was hard, let me tell you. My grandma belonged to the Women's Christian Temperance Union, which was against all forms of alcohol, and she'd actually gone out and carried posters in favor of prohibition. Whereas my daddy, on the other hand, was a distiller, and made his living, and even during the Depression, even made a little bootleg and sold it. So you can imagine how comfortable he was in that household, my grandma. I mean, he was reminded about 6 times a day that whiskey makers were going to hell, and he had to put up with it because there was no place else to go. Until, just up the hill, about half a mile away, through the cornfield, was a revivalist camp called Kavanaugh Campground. And in the summer, people came there and held revival meetings, and they stayed sometimes 2 or 3 days a week. They lived in these little shacks. They had no insulation, no stove, because it was summertime and hot in Kentucky. Well, it turns out that the man who owned it, the Reverend Sullivan, I think was his name, Reverend Sullivan, was talking to my dad one day and said, listen, if you don't like living with Mrs. Butcher there, why don't you come up and live in Kavanaugh Camp? I'll just charge you $5 a month for one of those shacks. And so my dad just jumped him. So boy, we trudged up the hill with what little belongings we had and made ourselves a home in a little one-room shack. Had no insulation. That was about the end of September or early October. And as it got into fall and colder, suddenly these strange men began to show up. They came in 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes at night, and they went to the tabernacle, and they built themselves a fire there in the tabernacle, and they sat around the fire, and they slept on the benches at night. They were hopeless. These were people who were out of work, drifting around the country. My dad done a little hope on them, because there were always rumors, there's a job somewhere in Indianapolis, there's a job somewhere. So he'd go up to Indianapolis, and there were 4 jobs in this factory, and there were 1,500 people showed up to take them. And they never got one. But anyway, these hobos were down there in the tabernacle, and we could see them down there. And my dad said, yeah, those are hobos. I hoboed myself, so you be nice to them, but I don't want you hanging around them. Well, that was sort of like telling us don't play the blues. So we would slip down there when the adults were not at home, and we would talk to the hobos. And they were a very nice bunch of old men. They were fathers with children, grandfathers, people out of work, some of them all over the country, really. And we would talk about our family, and they would talk about their families. And one time there was this one fellow who says, I got 2 boys. I'll show you their pictures. He pulled out his wallet. He had one boy about the age of my younger brother, Bud, about 10 years old. And this father said, very proudly, my boy plays the guitar. Well, that was my brother Bud's son. My brother Bud straightened up and said, I play the guitar too. And the hobo says, well, bring it over here and we'll play a little music. And my brother crept into the house, got the guitar, and went over to the tabernacle. I took a couple of harmonicas with me. And we spent the afternoon playing music and singing with a bunch of hobos. And it was really fun. Well, about the time we thought my dad would be coming in, we took the guitar and hopped back to the house. We were sitting like 2 pious little boys by the time we got home. But I'll never forget those hobos. They were not what people said they were. If people said they were drifters, and they were, but they were drifting around looking for jobs. They were family men, and they had no work. And I guess they didn't have grandparents who were willing to take them in for the sake of being able to tell them that they're going to hell for their whiskey makers. But in any case, I'll play a song for the hobos. This is for the hobos of Kavanaugh Campground. Please tell me where have all the hobos gone to? I see no fires burning down by the rusty railroad track. Could it be that time has just gone past them, waiting there with their hobos traveling side? There was a time when lonely men did wander across this land, drifting aimlessly along. So many times I've heard their sad story, some written in the words of dead men's song. Please tell me where have all hobos gone to? I see no fires burning and down the rusty railroad track. Could it be that time has just gone past them, waiting there with their hobos traveling side? That's for the hobos.